Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at one of the stakes races on Saturday at Belmont at the Big A. Race 9 is the Grade 3 Vosburgh, going the 7 furlong distance for the older dirt sprinters. Mike, this is a race with a storied career. This, before the days of the Breeders' Cup Sprint, used to be the championship sprint event in the country. No longer the case, and it's kind of been downgraded a couple times over the years to a Grade 3. But you've still got some talented sprinters in this field that are exiting a Grade 1 race in their last starts. The number 1 Scotland and the number 9 Crazy Mason, they rounded out the trifecta behind the very good Bookham Dano, arguably the best sprinter in the country last time in the Forgo.
Yeah, this race came up okay. You're right. The Vosburgh, man, this used to be such a great race, and it's not quite the same anymore. They got a decent field here. There are a couple of really nice sprinters in here, but man, the stars, they're not coming out for this race anymore.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Vosburgh, because both of those horses that I mentioned, Mike, that are coming out of the Forgo, neither one of them has a ton of early speed. I mean, we know the number 9 Crazy Mason, he's going to be last early. That's the way he runs in every single start, and no surprise, he's got that late pace flag over his chiclet on the pace projector. But the number 1 Scotland, another horse that has kind of lost some of the technical speed that he used to possess early in his career, so maybe he gets outrun from the rail. And as I was going through this field, Mike, a lot of these horses, while they've shown good early speed in the past, I wonder if they're quite as sharp as they used to be at this point in their careers. And I personally did not see this pace heating up too much.
I'm with you on that. I went through this race a couple of different times trying to figure out if this pace could really get heated up, and I just don't really see it happening necessarily. Certainly Super Chow is a fast horse when he wants to be, and I feel like they'll probably try to make the lead with him. I have no argument with the pace projector putting the 8 Patriot Spirit up there because that's his running style. And so, yeah, we'll see, if it gets fast enough for Crazy Mason, because I feel like he's in the best form on the way into this race, David, but you know where he's going to be early, and he's going to need some help.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Scotland, who I did pick as the slight morning line favorite at 5-2. He's a horse that actually was second in the Vosburgh last year behind Mufasa, who was in very good form at that time and spent a long time on the sideline through the early part of this year, Mike, but he ran well off the layoff at Saratoga. And here's this last race that we're taking a look at here, where he's making a wide run, not quite as wide as Crazy Mason, who was the second horse highlighted there. Both of them are closing strongly for second and third behind the best sprinter in the country in Bookham Dano, who, of course, is not back in this race. And that just makes it a very winnable spot for both of these horses coming out of the Forgo. But Scotland especially, my one question with him, Mike, is what kind of trip is he going to work out from the rail? Because without a whole lot of speed in this race and a lot of horses that want to be somewhat forward, but maybe not spreading the field out early, are you a little worried he might get shuffled further back than he wants to be?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at him, David. I mean, I do think he certainly has the chance to be closer to this pace than Crazy Mason does, but they kind of got similar trips in the Forgo last time, and personally, I thought that worked out really well for Scotland. I would just say I thought Junior Alvarado rode this horse perfectly last time. He just sort of let this horse get settled off the pace. He didn't even make his move on the turn. He just waited until they got to the stretch, then he wheeled him out and let him run. And I thought that's what, more than anything else, that led to his runner-up effort. I don't want to take too much away from this horse because it seemed like he was cut out to be good. It didn't really happen for him. Maybe he's going to start to round back into it now, but I know he finished ahead of Crazy Mason last time. Crazy Mason is better than Scotland is, and I'd rather have Crazy Mason.
The number 2, Nash, has one of the highest Beyer speed figures of any horse in this field when he earned a 108 for his narrow victory 2 back at Churchill Downs. Mike, I think we both have a little bit of skepticism about the validity of that number. A couple of runbacks from that race have not validated the speed figure, but he did contest Grade 2 company in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt last time behind the aforementioned Bookham Dano, as well as Mulligan, 2 of the best sprinters in the country. And Mike, I didn't see a big excuse for Nash. He got a little steady back at the start, but I mean, he got within range of the leaders on the turn and just got left in their dust once they turned into the stretch. I just don't know if he's good enough, even in light of that fast speed figure 2 back.
Yeah, he didn't break well last time, but he just looked like he was totally overmatched by those horses. That was not a good performance, and it's kind of disappointing because some of his other races are pretty good. I don't know, David. I took a long look at this horse. I feel like I could have gotten there with him. And this was a race where I was just sort of searching around for anybody because I feel like a lot of different horses can win here. And I thought for a long time about putting Nash on top in this race, and I might have gotten there if he didn't have the 108 showing 2 starts back, because I do think that's going to pull some money in his direction. And I
Probably.
don't want even a slightly low price on this race. If he was going to be a big price in here, I would have him on top, and I'll probably use him in this race, but I don't love him.
Yeah, hard to get too big a price for these connections, Flavian Pratt
Yeah.
and Brad Cox. The number 3, Super Chow, is a horse who's got plenty of early speed, though, Mike, that early speed that was so reliable early in his career, we haven't necessarily seen so much of it in the last couple of starts. It didn't look like they were so interested in putting him on an all-out send last time in that 5-furlong Brumson at Monmouth. Not really sure why, because it's such a short race. You need position in races like that, and he was kind of always on a hard chase outside. Look, this is a horse that's got some races in his past that would make him somewhat competitive with this field. But Mike, even when he was at his very best, I don't know if I want to bet him going 7 furlongs.
That was my problem with him too. Even when he was in really good form, I just was never really sold on him, especially going longer than 6 furlongs. You're right. In either of the last 2 races, they just didn't get that aggressive with him. But those are 5-furlong races. That's different. Going 6 and especially going 7, I expect him to be on the lead. I think they'll come out of there running and try to make the lead. I'm just not a huge fan of him, David. I don't want to bet him in here.
In the intro, I focused so much on the 2nd and 3rd place finishers from the Forgo. Probably shouldn't give short shrift to the number 4, Doc Sullivan, who ran a pretty good race in his own right in the Forgo. He rounded out the Superfecta, holding on for 4th. And Mike, you could argue that he actually got the toughest trip of the 3 that are coming out of that race, because he was closer to a pace that did fall apart towards the end. He was wide on the turn. He just kept trying hard all the way through the stretch. He's a horse that is reliable to show up. Doesn't always get the job done because he can be a little quirky and hard to ride at times, but it does seem like he's been in the best form of his career since this recent trainer switch to John Ortiz.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I agree with your take on the trips in the Forgo there. I feel like if we're going to take a horse out of that race and just forgetting about the overall form, just out of that race alone, this horse probably took the worst of it. Sort of in the middle of the pack, doing a lot of chasing, doing it from the outside. He stayed on really well in that race, and his win 2 starts back was also a really good performance. I just like him. I think he can win this race if things break his way. He's probably going to be a fair price in this race. He's not the kind of horse I look at and feel like he's overmatched in a race like this one. I'll use this horse.
Number 5, the Golden Gorilla, upset in allowance field 2 back at Gulfstream Park when he made this big swooping move from the back of the pack to win going away at odds of nearly 15-1. Didn't quite replicate that same turn of foot last time when he was second in the Benny the Bull, but still a solid effort. Certainly the second best performance of his career, because based on his first 9 efforts, Mike, he would be a hopeless long shot in this race. At least he's improved his form through recent starts. Just not sure if even those performances make him quite good enough against this field.
I didn't think that they did. I recognize that he's probably in the best form of his career right now, and so his connections want to take a shot at a race like this. That's fine with me. I'm not betting it.
The number 6, Baby Yoda, now a 7-year-old gelding, feels like he's been around forever. It seems like ages ago that he earned that 114 buyer for which he earned his reputation up at Saratoga. I think that was actually 4 years ago, back in 2021. Mike, this horse has achieved this triple-digit buyer now and then over the past couple of seasons. He did it 3 back at Aqueduct when he won a race where it just seemed like the public knew he was going to win, hammering down to favoritism off some mediocre form on the way into that race. But he's another one that was no match for some better horses in the Vanderbilt 2-back. He did get back on track in his last start. We'll take a look at the replay of that race where he visited the winner's circle at Saratoga. And I guess you're supposed to give some credit, Mike, because this was not his typical comfortable trip where he's up on the pace. He did have to work his way through some traffic after a less than ideal start and still got the job done. I just think this is a way better field than he faced last time. And we'll see if he can hold his form for a new barn, because he was claimed for $100,000 out of this race.
Yeah, that's certainly something that you want to factor in. Yeah, just, especially recently, I know that he won the True North last summer up at Saratoga with a triple-digit buyer, but since then, when they've run him in stakes races, he's just not really that competitive, and they're going to have to move him up in class here again off the claim. I did like his last race, David. I mean, considering the start that he got off to, he won that race really easily, and Pratt rode him very confidently throughout. Like, he knew he was going to win even after the poor start, but this is just a way tougher race, and he's another one. It's not like he's going to be, well, let's see how they bet it, I guess. I didn't feel like he was going to be a great price in here, and I don't want any kind of short price on this horse.
Seems like he always takes money on this
Yeah.
circuit. We'll see what price he is. The number 7, Light the Way. He was the horse who finished second in that replay that we just looked at for Baby Yoda. And Mike, he didn't get nearly as tough a trip as Baby Yoda did. He was up on top of the pace. They were moving up front, but he held on pretty well for second. It was a solid effort for a horse who has been improving over his recent starts. Mike, I guess the most interesting thing for me about this horse is that Linda Rice even bothered to enter him in this race. And if he does make it past scratch time and actually runs, maybe that's a reason to take another look at him, because it's not exactly a Linda Rice move to run a 20-1 shot in a graded stakes race.
That's very true. It's definitely something worth thinking about. Unless you don't want to, you probably shouldn't just judge a horse off of one race. But I defy anybody to go back and watch that last race and tell me you'd rather have Light the Way than Baby Yoda. You don't have to like either one of them. But if somebody told you had to pick one, I don't know why you would take this horse.
The number 8, Patriot Spirit, is an intriguing new face coming into this circuit from out of town, Mike. Kind of had an interesting career where they're going back and forth between sprint distances and two-turn route distances, and he's handled both pretty well. I personally feel like he's one of those horses that is just at his best around one turn, going these elongated sprints about 7 furlongs, and he's getting to do that here. I think they've picked out a pretty good spot for him. And when you go back over his recent races, he actually didn't run badly at all, going 9 furlongs, which is way too far for him in the Essex 3-back. That was a really fast pace, and he was in it until the end before fading in the final furlong. Another good effort in the Knicks Go, where the pace kind of fell apart towards the end. And then last time, he wasn't beating much at Colonial, a track that he's had a couple of wins over in the past, but he certainly looked good winning that race. There's been a bit of a layup, but you will notice he put in a very sharp workout 2 weeks ago, so they probably have him ready for this spot.
Feel like there's a good trip coming, and I think you're right. They're shipping in here, and I think they're finding a pretty good spot for this horse, especially in light of his recent form that you just highlighted. He probably didn't beat anything last time, but that's how you want to beat a field at 4 to 5. I mean, he absolutely aired in there, and I loved his Knicks Go. I thought he ran great in that race 2 starts back.
The number 9, Crazy Mason. We took a look at him earlier in the replay of that 4 go when he was closing widest for third, not even in the picture for much of that replay till the very end. That is the MO with Crazy Mason. He makes the last move, and he typically is flying across the wire in his races. Just a matter of whether or not he can get there in time. He did so over this racetrack at Aqueduct back in the Carter when he got up on the wire to win that Grade 2 event. And Mike, he had won 3 races in a row over this Aqueduct surface, and maybe this is just a better racetrack for him than Saratoga, where kickback can be a little bit more of an issue when he gets so far back in the early stages of his races. He was absolutely caked in mud when he was making that late run in the 4 go last time. And also, he's getting class relief that is probably going to be pretty meaningful for him.
Yeah, I think that's very significant. I mean, obviously, trip and pace is really important to this horse, but this is significant class relief. And he's just run one good race after another, David, going right back to the end of last year and right through the summer. He just keeps showing up and running well. I love this spot for him. I don't love his running style. I love this spot for this horse. I just think he's clearly the horse to beat, and they might not bet the race that way.
Let's go to our picks for this Grade 3 Vosburgh. And Mike, you're going to put that horse that we were just discussing on top, and I'm not going to question it. I'm a huge fan of Crazy Mason. I couldn't quite pull the trigger in this race because I am worried about a potential lack of pace in here, but I agree. He's the one to beat.
Yeah, you have to be worried about the trip he's going to get. But I took him. I looked at this race for a long time, and I wanted to pick against the favorites. And I didn't quite get there. I'm going to take Crazy Mason on top. I should have your top pick in there somewhere. I don't know what I was thinking when I sent the picks in, because I don't like Scotland at all in this race, and I got him in there for some reasons. You can sort of disregard the picks that I have up there. I like Crazy Mason. Couldn't talk myself into really betting against him.
Yeah, as I was handicapping this race, I kept coming back to Patriot Spirit because I can just envision him working out a really good trip in this race. So some of those to his inside don't have that speed they used to have. He's probably going to be perched outside through a half at like 45 and 4. And that's going to be the perfect trip for the kind of horse that he is, going the 7 furlong distance. So I could see him winning this race at what could be a decent price. 8-9-1-4 for me, 9-4-2-1 for Mike in the Grade 3 Vosburgh on Saturday at Belmont at the Big A. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.